I think one of the big sort of conundrums around No Man's Sky, or the questions before people have really seen it, is what is it? We live in a space with gaming where there's a game and you know what a game is and you pick it up, but this seems to be much more than just your traditional video game. You've had some time with it. I mean, can you help narrow that down? Is it a game? Is it an experience? Well, how would you characterize No Man's Sky?
Well, it's definitely a game, but you're right that people haven't been able to really pigeonhole it very well. Coming away from it, my take is that it's a game about a few things. So exploration, survival, crafting, and upgrading, and that's really about it. There's no real story to it. There's no grand narrative, no missions and objectives. You just kind of forge your own way through an enormous galaxy full of worlds.
Yeah, it seems like enormous is even an understatement because of how grand this is really going to be, and what they're promising it seems almost limitless. So, I mean, let's talk about it. How much time did you get to try it out, and what can you say in terms of like just sort of an early impression?
Kind of the joke at the event that I attended for journalists was that we had 30 minutes with the game, which is a ridiculously small amount of time in order to wrap your head around what it is. So it's a galaxy that is procedurally generated, which means that it's created based on a whole bunch of algorithms and mathematics. So there's artists who say might have created a tree here or there, something like that, or the foundations of different things in the game, but it's all plugged into an algorithm, and the computer creates everything. And what it's created is a galaxy with literally quintillions of stars. Each one of them you can visit. And each of these stars has its own system of planets, and these planets are the size of real planets. They have day-night cycles. They spin around. If you wanted to circumnavigate a planet, just walk around its equator, it could take days, it could take weeks of real time, because that's how big these planets are. And so what Sean Murray, the game's director, told me was that he thinks that even if this game is a smash hit, even if millions of people play for years to come, they'll have explored only about 0.01%. So 99.9% of the worlds in this game will never be seen by anybody.
Wow. See, I mean, that kind of stuff just like shatters the brain a bit. I mean, when we've talked about it on Got Game, we've joked around a bit that, with most games, you get them in the mail or you get a code and you play it for a week and then you have a review. Sometimes if it's a bigger game like a Skyrim and you need more time, you'll take a couple weeks before you do your review. This one, you could conceivably take 6 months and come back and be like, you know what? I'm not ready yet. Like, I mean, it's so massive. I don't even know how people tackle it.
Yeah, so one of the questions I had for him, Sean Murray, the director, was exactly what do you expect people to get up to in the game if all you do is explore and stuff. And he said that there's kind of a natural tendency for players to want to work their way towards the center of the galaxy, because everybody starts off on their own individual world on the outer rim of the galaxy. And they'll just kind of naturally discover as they play that the closer you go to the center of the galaxy, the harder it gets, and the rarer materials that you find will be for crafting and stuff. So as you find technology recipes that will make you want to build, say, a better gun or a better set of clothing or something like that, you're going to need to find better periodic table elements to build these things. And you're only going to find them you're most likely to find them as you go further in. And as you go further in, you're going to find more predatory animals that are harder. You might find more aggressive space pirates that want to attack you. So everybody's going to kind of want to kind of go towards the center of the galaxy. And then he kind of playfully said, without revealing very much at all, that at the core of the galaxy, there is something there that might want players to keep on playing for a specific reason, although he wouldn't say what that is. So there is something that people are going to want to kind of do, but like I said, there's no narrative, there's no like memorable characters or anything like that. You're just kind of slowly working your way and exploring planets as you go.
But conceivably, because of the size of the game, it's possible that we could never get there, right? Like, I mean, did you talk about that at all? Like the fact that, okay, fine, people want to work their way to the center of the galaxy, but is it possible for a player to get there in a reasonable amount of time?
I don't know how long it takes, but in playtesting, players have gotten to the center of the galaxy. And he says what's interesting is that people who keep on playing, the playtesters who keep on playing, don't necessarily keep on playing because of what they find at the center of the galaxy. They keep on playing because of the things that they found in the game that interest them. One of the things that Sean Murray told me that really stuck with me is he said, the game allows players to express themselves, to express who they are.
Right.
So this one fellow that he described, he focused on getting the best thermal suit that he could build for himself so that he could explore the coldest planets in every solar system he went to. So he'd just like go to the furthest planet out from the sun in every solar system, which would have some of the rarest elements, and grab those elements and then take them to a trader and sell those elements to the trader, and then do it again in the next system and the next system, the next system. And like that sounds boring, but that's what that guy wanted to do, and he's having a great time. Keep on playing even after he gets to the center of the galaxy.
This game, more than maybe any other game that's come out, really does sound like it's using the choose your own adventure model. There's no sort of set ground rules. You just kind of dictate what you want to do. Is that what you found?
Yeah, pretty much like that. And there's so many things that you can do. Like, for instance, there's alien languages that you can learn. One of the big things that came out of the event I attended was that planets aren't just flora and fauna. There's actually other things that you find. Like, you're going to find wreckages, you're going to find factories, you're going to find little buildings. Mm-hmm. And among these things that you can find are these monoliths that have alien languages on them. And so the more monoliths you find, the more words you learn in alien languages. And those alien languages that you learn can then be exploited when you talk to traders, because you might go up to a trader who will ask you a question, and on his dialogue you'll only see one word that you understand. And so what you have to do is keep on learning more words in his language to better understand what he's asking of you, so that you can give him what he wants and maybe get a better reward from him. And he said that he kind of, as an aside, he said these languages will take a long time to master. He said you can play for 100 hours and still not have mastered one of these languages. So
the whole thing is so interesting. We're talking to Chad Sepieha, senior writer with Post Arcade at the National Post. Chad got a chance to try out No Man's Sky. You can check his article up on the Post if you have time. I definitely recommend reading the article. This whole thing sounds to me... You ever read the book Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that spring into your mind at all? Because all the things that I've been reading about this game, as we've known about it for the past 2-3 years, every time I hear anything about it, that's what I think about, is that world that they live in that book.
Yeah, you can, in virtual reality, I'm sure this game would shine. You would be able to just lose yourself in this massive world that it is a universe that you can lose yourself in this game.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's so much hype around this, because it's such a different take on what we're used to in traditional gaming. I know you only saw a little bit, but do you envision that this is something that would grab the gamer's attention and maybe have staying power as well?
That's an interesting question. So I think right now, for a few months anyways, Hello Games, the developer, has been trying to manage expectations a bit, because very few indie games, and remember, this huge game is a game built by, at first, only 4 or 5 people, and even now their team is only at 10 people. Right. Very few indie games get this sort of attention. It was introduced on stage at E3 in 2014. Everybody went crazy about it. So not only like hardcore serious gamers are thinking about this game now, which is often the case with indie games, now you have mainstream gamers thinking about it. And so they're trying to manage the expectations, because, like I said, this isn't the sort of game where you're going to go in and you're going to get this story with memorable characters and lots of missions, and it's going to guide you towards what you're supposed to do. And it's also, keep in mind, not as polished, say, as a AAA game might be, because there isn't a huge team of artists checking where every stone is placed and where every building is placed. You're going to find things in the game that, even though for the most part it looks pretty natural, have a very computer-generated sort of feel, and which can kind of can break the spell. They can take you out of the moment. More hardcore gamers are just going to overlook that pretty easily, but mainstream gamers might be inclined to think the game is broken or something like that, when really it's just kind of a work in progress. And they release it when they think it's at the stage that most people will be interested in experiencing a game like that. So I do think that it may have a little bit of difficulty, not necessarily reaching people, because I think a lot of people are just going to buy it because they know about it now. But once they get it home, it might not quite be the game that people were expecting or hoping for.
That's a good way to put it. I think people are definitely intrigued and curious. Now that you've had, admittedly, a fairly short amount of time with it, do you find that you're more curious about it, or did you have some of that curiosity quenched? I mean, how do you feel now that you've had a little bit of time with it?
It is an awesome feat of video game technology. Like, we haven't even talked about this yet, but there's no loading screens in the game. You hop in a ship, and you pilot it up like you physically pilot it up. It's not automatic. You go up through the atmosphere into space, There are moons and other ships and planets that you can fly to. There's no loading screens in any of this. You can go to the galaxy map, choose the next system you want to warp to, and again, no loading screens. It's just a huge world that seamlessly exists. And just that alone has me dying to play more of it. Like, I want to keep on playing. I really want to explore and see where things go and see just how varied the worlds are and stuff. My big question is, am I going to feel like that 10 hours later or 20 hours later or 30 hours later or 100 hours later? And I can't answer that yet. That's a question that only people will be able to answer once they've been playing for a long time.
No loading screen. That's every gamer's dream.
Yeah, I know.
that's sort of like, how many times have we all put it in a game and you just sit there and the load screen takes 2 or 3 minutes or potentially longer and you're just like ready to throw your controller out the window.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the last question I have for you is, how has a company that is this small, brand new, been able to accomplish something so drastic when there are major studios out there who haven't even touched anything like this?
That's a good question. I think they just have some really smart people. Like the main guy I spoke with, Sean Murray, he's a programmer, and the first half hour of the presentation he gave us was pretty much just all about how math is used to create these worlds. So it's just some really smart guys figured out a way to procedurally generate a whole lot of content. And like I said, it's not perfect. You need an Assassin's Creed, 2,000 person team to build something like a picture perfect representation of London. But if you're just building random things like planets that nobody's ever been to before, the procedural generation thing kind of works. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting is he said that if we can do this, then if we can also create algorithms and math to generate, say, a city that nobody's ever been to before, then all of a sudden small teams like a team that's the size of his, it opens up the world to them in terms of development. They may have huge ideas that they've never been able to do because they're just 2 or 3 guys working in a basement, but all of a sudden, with the sort of math that they're talking about, the algorithms they're using for this, all of a sudden their huge ideas become possible.